Kia ora koutou katoa, and welcome to our first webinar in our Health and Wellbeing series for 2025. My name is Joanna and I am the Health Content Creator at Arthritis New Zealand, Whataponapona Aotearoa. So tonight we have Sasha Douglas, our lovely Sasha here, who is our guest presenter for our webinar tonight. Now, before she gets into our presentation and I explain a little bit more about what she does, I'm just going to read a very short karakia to start us off. Tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I roto, tu taua mai I waho, kia tau ai, te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, homi e huie taike. Okay, so introductions first of all to Sasha Douglas. Sasha is an accredited exercise physiologist and she holds a postgraduate diploma in clinical exercise physiology from the University of Auckland. She currently works as an exercise physiologist at Optimise Health and as a research assistant at the University of Auckland as well. She is a busy lady. Sasha has a special interest in arthritis, autoimmune conditions and injury rehabilitation. And she helps individuals to manage their symptoms and improve mobility and function through tailored exercise programs. Having rheumatoid arthritis herself, Sasha brings a unique perspective to her work, combining personal experience with professional expertise in musculoskeletal assessment and prescription. Now, this lived experience fuels her commitment to finding effective exercise solutions that make a real difference in the lives of those that she works with. You might also recognise Sasha from some of our short exercise videos that we have on our YouTube channel. She's done some fantastic videos there, so check those out. And she also has recently done a short series about her journey with RA as well, which is on our social media. So we are really excited to have Sasha as our presenter tonight. She's going to be speaking about movement and unlocking the power of exercise for arthritis. So before she starts, I've just got a couple of things to note for everybody. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available on our YouTube channel in the next wee while. And at the end, we're going to have some time for questions. So if you want to ask a question, just pop it into our Q&A box down below there, and I will ask some of your questions to Sasha after her presentation. So we'll have some time for that at the end, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. However, we probably won't be able to get through them all. I know we've got lots of people tuning in tonight, but we will do our very best. So now I'm going to hand over to Sasha.
Thank you so much for the great introduction, Joe. I really appreciate that. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the presentation on exercise and arthritis. Just get my screen presenting. Here we go. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about it. As Joe mentioned, I have particular interests through my studies and through my personal experience of arthritis. So a bit about myself and why I'm here today. I went to uni and I studied an exercise science degree at the University of Auckland. Shortly after that, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis myself in 2020, and I was 22 when this happened. Now, when this happened, I was already working in the health and fitness industry, and it was a really big shock, and it became really challenging as that was sort of my professional career and also personal interest with exercise as well. And it sort of got me thinking of if I'm struggling with this, then I'm sure a lot of other people with RA and with other types of arthritis struggle with this as well. So that inspired me to go back to university and study clinical exercise physiology. I then graduated and got a job at Optimise Health, and I've been there for 2.5 years now as an exercise physiologist, and also do some clinical research with the University of Auckland around back pain recurrence and some work at the cardiac rehab program at Greenland Hospital. So I like to do a little bit of everything, but everything always comes back to me for exercise and using what I've been through to help myself and to help others as well. So a bit about the profession that I work in as a clinical exercise physiologist. Now, we might not have heard of the title, so a bit about what we do is we do exercise assessments, and we use evidence-based research to help prescribe individualized prescriptions. So whatever it is that you are going through, we take into account your medical history, your physical activity history, to help inform whatever it is and the goals that you would like to achieve and that we help you find. We're also really big on lifestyle and behavior education. So not just exercise, it is one piece of the puzzle, an important piece of the puzzle, of course, but looking at what else is in our lives and what else affects us and our arthritis. We're also really big on long-term maintenance. So we're not about just one quick fix, do this and you'll be fixed. It's about what changes can we make over time that are going to last our lifetimes. And of course, using evidence for our rehabilitation methods. Now, a bit of a disclaimer for today. This is general guidance. So any recommendations, they're general ones. So if you do need any personalized, individualized things, please seek your GP or medical professional. And if you have any further queries, I'll speak a bit about Optimize Health at the end. We're more than happy to assist. Some guidelines mostly coming from the American College of Sport Medicine, along with some other reviews. So let's get into it, shall we? So did you know a study in the UK looked at people with osteoarthritis, with knee osteoarthritis, and found that 44% of people with knee OA aren't meeting the exercise recommendations. In another study looking at people with rheumatoid arthritis, they found that 45% of people weren't meeting the exercise recommendations either. In another study done in Turkey, this one found that 70% of people with rheumatoid arthritis reported to have a fear of movement due to any increased pain or damage associated with the movement. And another one found that 43% of people with ankylosing spondylitis reported having that same fear of movement when it came to engaging in exercise. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this so that it can show you that you are not alone. It's really normal to feel confused about, well, maybe you've been told you should exercise with arthritis. Maybe you've been told it's beneficial for you. And it's normal to feel a bit confused of, well, what should I do? Where can I even start? And are you sure this is even going to help me? I know, because I was there as well. And it's also really normal to have a fear of movement due to the fear that you could be creating more pain or more damage in the joints yourself. I remember for myself first being diagnosed, talking to my rheumatologist at the time, I said, well, can I still exercise? I'm scared that if I'm going to do more exercise, that I'm going to create more damage. Is that the case? So it's really normal to have that fear and those thoughts, and know that you're not alone. It's normal to have those thoughts and those ideas. But what we're going to talk about today is why exercise can be beneficial, what you can do, and how we can plan it into our weeks and hopefully overcome those barriers. So a bit of what we'll be talking about. We'll go over a quick little overview of what arthritis is. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. Some different types of arthritis, some exercise for arthritis and benefits associated. Some safety tips for exercising when you have arthritis, and also we'll be helping to create a plan for you and reflecting on what you've learned in our session together today. We'll also have a little break sort of halfway through a few exercises just to break up the sitting time right here. So but just very quickly, what is arthritis? Well, we know that arthritis is joint inflammation. We know that there's over 140 different types of arthritis. And in fact, again, you're not alone. There are over 750,000 people with arthritis in New Zealand. Some of the most common in New Zealand are osteoarthritis, with around 10% of adults having it. Next is gout arthritis, gout, with around 5.7% of adults having that. And the third most common type of arthritis is rheumatoid, the one that I have as well, also an autoimmune condition, and around 1 to 3% of adults have this. Some symptoms can include, as I'm sure you'll know as well, pain, inflamed and swollen joints, reduced range of motion, and perhaps also some fatigue. So with all that being said, why should we exercise with arthritis? Well, you may know exercise is really, really great and beneficial for our physical health and our mental health. So let's break it down. When we look at our physical health, Exercise can help to strengthen muscles, improve our joint mobility, reduce inflammation long term, and also to reduce our pain. So when we're exercising our muscles and when we're strengthening our muscles and working our joints, we want to be strengthening the muscles around the joints. And what that's going to do is help to take the stress and mechanical load off of the joints by having nice strong muscles around it. When we look at our mental health, can help to improve our mood, can help to regulate our stress levels, combat fatigue, and actually increases our body's ability to deal with stress in the body. So you might have heard of endorphins. I'm sure we've heard of endorphins, and those are the hormones that are released after and when we exercise. So you might have heard of, runner's high, or you might have experienced yourself. Maybe you've done some exercise and felt good after and really felt that immediate benefit of exercise. So those are some of the physical and mental health benefits of exercise. Now, I hear you saying, well, will exercise make my arthritis worse? And again, that is a valid concern and a valid question to have. Have you ever felt that, well, what if I'm doing more damage? Maybe you used to be active and now you're afraid to try once you've been diagnosed. Maybe you're feeling like you're already in pain, and especially with other types of arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, we get a lot of stiffness in the mornings, or we can get most stiffness in the mornings. So maybe you're thinking, well, how can exercise actually help me then? Again, normal thoughts to have. And what I want to say is, will exercise make my arthritis worse? The answer is no, when done correctly and in the right amounts. Now, that's really important. Now, we talked a bit about before some of the physical and mental benefits. Now, some of the immediate benefits that we can get from exercise is that strengthening around the muscle joints, which then again reduces the mechanical stress on the joints. Those happy, feel-good endorphins are released. And then when we look at some long-term benefits, less stress on the joints over time equals less pain over time. And it can also help us to enhance our activities of everyday life. Especially as we age, it's really important that we want to continue to, maybe if you have children or grandchildren, be involved in their lives and be engaged with them. Even taking our groceries from the car and inside. So being able to carry on with the activities of everyday life that keep us involved in our social connections and our friends and our family or any work that we're doing. Now, he saying, well, okay, you're saying all these really good benefits and how it's not necessarily going to make my arthritis worse when I do it right. So, well, what types of exercise are there that I could do? We're going to go over a few now. First one is mobility and flexibility exercises. Now, these exercises are really important as they help to maintain and improve your joint range of motion, and they can help to reduce your stiffness. When we look at our joints, we want our joints to be able to move through their full range of motion. And so mobility exercises and flexibility exercises can help to maintain or improve that. And then with increased range of motion, hopefully then we get some reduction in stiffness. Another type of exercise that's really important that we do is resistance training. Now, I've mentioned it a little bit, well, probably 3 times already now, that they help to strengthen the muscles around joints and improve and reduce areas of stress in affected areas. I'm going to touch on resistance training a bit more soon. Next, we have aerobic exercise. Now, when we think of aerobic exercise, you might think of cardio exercise. That could look like cycling, walking at a brisk pace, running, rowing, jump rope, whatever it is that's really going to get your heart rate up, get your breathing rate up, and honestly, just get a bit sweaty and get some work in you. And so it's really important that we keep our cardiorespiratory fitness up, so really looking after our heart and our lungs, so that heart health there. And then lastly, again, there's many types of exercises, but the fourth one we'll touch on for today are balance exercises. Balance exercises are really great to help prevent falls, especially as we get older. We really want to maintain our stability and our balance. So we've touched on a few types of exercise here. We've got mobility, resistance, aerobic, and balance. Now, I might hear you asking, well, now we've touched on the different types. How much do I need to do? Now, the recommended guidelines, as recommended by the American College of Sport Medicine, is 150 minutes of exercise per week at a moderate to vigorous intensity. Now, 150 minutes equates to 2.5 hours. So if we think about our week and we have 7 days in the week, we want to be getting in 2.5 hours of moderate to vigorous physical activity. So not just light walking, but things where we're working sort of hard. 2.5 hours in the week. Now, that could look like many ways. One way it could be broken down is 30 minutes of walking 5 times per week. So that equates to our 2.5 hours, our 150 minutes, walking at 5 kilometers per hour. So that's one way that we could collect 2.5 hours of exercise at that moderate to vigorous physical activity range. You'll notice the 5 kilometers per hour put in here because at different intensities will give us different response and a different output. And so there's lots of different ways we could collect this exercise. That's one way. But I want you to have a think. We've spoken about the different types of exercise. So we want a balanced prescription that combines multiple types of exercise. So my question is, well, how can we build up to the 150 minutes of exercise? I've got some ideas. So one way we could do it is 60 minutes of jogging equates to the 150 minutes of brisk walking. 140 minutes is also equivalent of easy bodyweight exercises, is also equivalent to the 150 minutes of exercise. 100 minutes of easy cycling is the same equivalent. 50 minutes of jump rope is the same equivalent. Also, 190 minutes of slow walking is that equivalent of that 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous that you need to do in the week. Now, I don't know about you, but if I had to do just one type of exercise in my week, I might get a little bit bored. So we've got another way to look at it is breaking up exercise into chunks and perhaps even bite-sized pieces. And so we mentioned before, we want to have a balanced prescription, taking into account some of the mobility, the cardio, the resistance, and the balance. So perhaps breaking up that 150 minutes, we can break it up into different intensities for different times. And so your whole week could look like 12 minutes of jogging, 25 minutes of easy bodyweight exercises, 30 minutes of walking, 20 minutes of cycling, 10 minutes of jump rope. So that is five different exercise sessions. So those could each be on one day of the week, and that would make up your whole week of exercise. So I don't know about you, but that sounds a little more appealing to me than just perhaps one type of exercise for the whole week. I have another way that we could look at this as well. So how can you plan this into your week? Well, if you take a look here, 20 minutes of swimming is the equivalent of 45 minutes of Tai Chi. Think about the amount of exercise and the amount that you are exerting, so they're equivalent. So if you were to pick 5 blocks from this chart here, that would equate to your 150 minutes at this intensity exercise that you can do to collate that exercise into your whole week. And I can pass this resource on later, so you don't have to worry about taking a photo or jotting anything down now. So for example, we could pick 5 blocks. We could get some resistance training in here, some weighted exercise and moderate effort for 25 minutes. We could get in some yoga, some mobility exercise. Maybe you already do some vacuuming. Chances are you probably do some vacuuming. So you've got some vacuuming in there already. You might go to some lawn bowls or even get some gardening in your week. So you might already be surprised at the exercise that you do get in your week. But I do encourage you to have a look. Am I covering those bases? Am I getting some cardio in? Am I getting some resistance training in? Am I doing some balance and some mobility? How could I pick one of each of those from this chart and put that into my week? Again, we'll send this resource soon. So I've mentioned a bit about resistance training. Now, how much should you do and what does that actually look like? So resistance training, if we think about a bicep curl, maybe you're sitting on your chair and you're going to stand up and you're going to sit down. Perhaps you're going to the gym and you're going to use some weighted equipment there or use some weights, some dumbbells, kettlebells. That's your resistance training. When we do our resistance training, we want to be working each muscle group 2 to 3 times in the week. When we work them, say we're going to be doing some bicep curls and we're going to do maybe 8 or 12 reps. We want to do it at a level that we feel like we're working at about a 5 or 6 out of 10. And when I mean that, we call this a rating of perceived exertion. So I want to feel like I have more gas in the tank to go. I haven't completely gone into failure, but I've gone on enough that I'm feeling a little bit of a burn in those muscles. I would rate it about a 5 or 6 out of 10 on a scale from 1 to 10. Once I've done those 8 to 12 reps, I'd have a little break, maybe 30 to 60 seconds, have a rest, and then I'm going to go back and do a second set and do that again. That might be enough to start, perhaps 2 sets, but once you've built up and once that's starting to feel a little bit easier, perhaps you've started to rate it more out of 3 or 4 out of 10, then you could add a third set in. And once you're working at maybe that's a 4 kg dumbbell and that starts to feel easier, maybe again a 3 or 4 out of 10, that's when you'll know, oh, maybe I can increase the weight that I'm using from last time. So maybe you'll pick up the 5 kg dumbbell and then maybe you'll start again at 2 sets of 8 reps and again build that up to 12 reps and then adding on that third set. Now, there are some considerations that we do want to think about when we are doing exercise, and I'll go through those now. Some safety tips that we have. A really important one is to listen to your body. When I say that, what I mean is listening to your pain levels and being in tune with your body and how it feels. I understand firsthand what the pain of arthritis can bring, whether it's in your hands, your shoulders, your hips, your knees. And know that sometimes with exercise, there might be some mild discomfort. That's okay. If when you're doing some exercise and you feel like on a scale from 1 to 10 that you're experiencing perhaps a 1 or 2 out of 10, a little bit of discomfort, that is okay. If we start to move up to that more 4, 5, 6, or 7, 8, or 9, 10 out of 10 for pain, it's important to stop and reassess what we're doing. Perhaps we can lower the weight that we're doing. Perhaps we can lower the number of repetitions that we're doing. Perhaps we can sit down and take a break before we restart again. So know that a little bit of mild discomfort is okay. If we're working around a 1 or 2 out of 10, that's okay. If it's getting up to that 4 or higher, we'll have a break, stop, reassess. Can I take things a little bit lighter? Can I take things a little bit easier? And then go from there again. So it's really important that we pace and we avoid pushing through pain because, like we experience, we don't want to make things worse, and it's really understandable. So starting low, starting slow, and building things up will also help to give you the confidence and the peace of mind that you're not creating more damage in your joints when we're doing these exercises because we're doing them at the right amount, at the right level for you. So exercise shouldn't worsen your pain. Mild discomfort, like I mentioned, is okay. Now, there is something to be aware of, and you might have heard of something called DOMS. Well, what does DOMS mean? It means delayed onset muscle soreness. You can expect if we do work our muscles, especially in resistance training or any other type of exercise, that our muscles might be sore the next 1 or 2 days. If you are experiencing some muscle soreness 24 to 48 hours post-exercise, that is normal and that is okay. If it does progress onwards of over 48 hours, then maybe it's important to again reassess, maybe dial back or talk to your exercise professional or GP if something does carry on. Again, I will reiterate, it's important to start low, start slow, and progress with time, intensity, duration, and how often you're exercising too. It's important to reach out for help from professionals, and that could be clinical exercise physiologists, or that could be physios as well. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about flare-ups now. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I assume you've probably experienced a flare-up as well. Now, sometimes with flares, we might not know what bring it on. Sometimes we also might know what does bring flares on, and we obviously try to avoid those things. With rheumatoid arthritis, I sometimes will just get a flare for, it seems like no apparent reason. Sometimes I'll get a flare. Maybe I have had takeaways one night. You know, we're all human. And then I will really feel it in my body the next day. And so sometimes weather or multiple things might come up. Now, because we're going to be talking about how to make a plan soon for your week, and we already looked at how to plan exercise into your week, you might have a plan. But a flare might come up. So, how can we deal with that? And how does that affect your mindset and your plan? Consistency is really important when it comes to exercise, but we must know how to be flexible in a way. And instead of working against our body, to work with our body and to understand that things might flare up and we might go through periods of higher pain than other days. And that is normal. But it's important that we have a plan around that. So for me, what can really help is instead of doing maybe a weight session or a cardio session, I might just do some low intensity mobility and some stretches. Perhaps even go for a walk. I find getting outside can be really important. Maybe not in this weather, it's pretty crazy up here in Auckland at the moment, but especially getting some sun can be really great. And so, like I mentioned, instead of lifting heavy weights or doing anything too strenuous or arduous, doing something relaxing, some low intensity mobility or stretches can be really helpful. I find also for myself, keeping the joints moving, especially in a flare, without too much stress on them. It can be also important to simply take a break and to know that taking a break is okay. If we need to rest our bodies, we need to rest our bodies. I know that for a while I found it actually really, really hard to admit that I needed a rest day or rest or not exercise because of the pain in my hands. And that was a really hard mindset to break through for me at times. And so I've learned now that sometimes we just need to have rest. And that is okay. And knowing that if that's what is required of us at the time, that's what we must do. It's important to stick to your prescribed treatment plan, whatever treatment plan you have made with your rheumatologist or GP. Heat can help to reduce stiffness and relax muscles, and cold can help to reduce inflammation, and also making sure that we're staying hydrated. So it's important to have a think about, well, how can I remind myself of all of these things that help me in a flare? I like to think about it as a bit of almost a menu of things that I could do if a flare were to arise that I know help me through these times. So you could make a note and you could refer to this note somewhere. Maybe it's on the notes app on your phone, maybe it's in your diary, journal, or a piece of paper on the fridge. And you could have some tips and tricks for if a flare comes up, things that you know could help you, or things to try when that happens. All right. With all this being said, I'm talking a lot about exercise right now. We are all sitting down. Now, I'm not going to ask you to stand up, but we're just going to do a few mobility exercises right now just to get our joints and body moving a little bit, okay? So just sit up nice and comfy. So get some more space here. We're just going to start with our hands, okay? We're going to hold them like this, and we're just going to make a little figure 8 with our wrists. Good. So figure 8 one way, and then I want you to reverse it. We're going to reverse the other way. I don't know why, but reversing in figure 8's also always really challenging for the brain somehow. Great. We're going to interlock our fingers like this. Sort of just make a little wave pattern here, just getting some movement and mobility in our fingers, our hands, and in our wrists. Beautiful. Good. We're going to rest our arms at our side. We're going to gently use our right hand and pull our head gently to the side here. We're just going to get a little stretch up the left side of our neck. And gently swapping the other way, just pulling gently. Good. We're going to do head circles one way. So down, all the way around, looking up, down, all the way looking up, and reverse directions. Good. We're going to put our hands behind our head like this. Our elbows are going to come forwards. We're going to open one elbow to the side and come back. Nice and gently open one elbow and twist our body to the side, come back. We're going to do 2 more on each side. Some good thoracic twists going on. Really nice for the back, for the upper back. We're going to do 1 more on each side. And last one. Beautiful. Hands on either your desk in front of you or on your lap. We're going to arch our spine in this way, bring our chin into our chest, and then we're going to do the opposite. We're going to look up, open up our shoulders, and arch our spine slightly the other way. We're going to move through those a few times together, arching back this way, tuck the chin, and then opening shoulders back up, looking up. 1 more each way. And last one, looking up. Beautiful. Just going to end on some shoulder rolls now. Few going backwards and reverse. Last 3 coming forwards to the front. Beautiful. Okay. Hopefully we've all got a little bit of movement in and we've got some life in us. And what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be making a bit of a plan. Now, if you have with you a pen and paper, or if you have your phone in front of you to type on, a laptop to type on, or you might just want to think about these questions, whatever's most helpful for you. Now, the first question is I want you to reflect on and write down or type if you can, is what in the presentation or talk tonight did you find most surprising and helpful? So I'll give you a minute to write down and have a think about what that could be. Maybe what you found most helpful or surprising is that there's a lot of different types of exercise that we can do. Maybe you found surprising the amount of exercise that we ideally, the guidelines show that we should be achieving. Maybe you found surprising how you can break the time up into those different exercise chunks. So I'll give you a few more seconds to have a think and write down for you what you found most surprising and helpful. This is just a self-reflection tool. Okay, our second question. With what you found most surprising and helpful from this talk, how can you plan this into your week? If it's to do with the exercise, so perhaps you said you found it surprising that you needed to get, well, ideally 150 minutes of exercise into the week. And so how could you plan this into your week? So maybe you're going to do exercise 5 times in the week, and you're going to pick one of those chunks from the boxes. Maybe that's how you're going to plan it into your week. So again, I'll give you a few moments to have a think about how this could be planned into your week. Amazing. So now we're going to think about what might prevent you from achieving this. So that plan that you just made of how you can implement this change into your week, what might get in the way of you doing this? It's really normal that life is busy, right? We all have busy lives. We've got our social life, we've got our family, our friends, our work, our careers, our personal interests, and life can get in the way of our plan sometimes. So what might prevent you from achieving this plan? I'll give you a few moments again. Amazing. And when we think about those barriers that might get in the way of us achieving this, I now want you to think, how could you overcome this? For example, maybe what you found most surprising helpful was the exercise and how you could plan it into your week. You're going to break it up into the different days. What might prevent you from achieving this might be what time the kids come home from school, it could be, or even lack of motivation could prevent you from achieving this. So how could you overcome that? Perhaps you feel more energized in the morning rather than in the evening. So perhaps a way that could help you achieve this exercise is by scheduling it into your schedule in the morning time rather than in the evening. So have a think. As I said, life can be busy and things come up, but we know that things will come up. And so if we can have a plan around what might prevent us from doing what it is that we want to, then we've already got our plan on how to overcome that when it might come up. So again, I'll give you a few seconds to think about how you could overcome this barrier. And the last question I have for you to reflect on is, what might it feel like when you do achieve this? For example, maybe you would like to go find a community exercise class in your local community, or you're going to going for a walk with some friends whatever it is that you would like to achieve. What might it feel like when this does happen? Would you feel quite accomplished? Would you feel very determined to move on and move forward and make some improvements? So what would that feeling feel like to you when you do achieve this? I'll give you a second. Amazing. If you would like to revisit these questions, we can send these questions out to help you make a plan. So you can review and revise this later if you'd like to carry on and add any more extra bits to it. So next, I'm just going to go over some conclusions and some main points that we have talked about. Now, exercise can be more fun with other people, and it's using social and exercise, putting social connections and exercise together can be a great way to get more enjoyment out of exercise. Maybe you sign up for a local community class, or you're going to a class at the gym. Almost having that accountability that you're going to do some exercise with someone else, it does help to keep you a bit more accountable. So you don't want to let them down. And also, it's just a bit more fun with other people sometimes, hey. We know that with exercise, we've talked about exercise in the right amount and help to reduce pain and not actually increase pain, again, in the right amount, doing the right exercise. It's really important that we start with a low intensity, short sessions, and that we slowly build up tolerance and time and the intensity in which we're working. We've talked a little bit about consistency and habits, and it's really great to create some consistent habits. If you can see exercise as almost a non-negotiable part of your day, it's a really great way to look at it. And again, it can look different every day, just like we've spoken about. You don't have to lift heavy weights every day of the week, don't have to do the same thing every day. It's about finding what you enjoy and finding ways to make it more enjoyable too. Because if something's more enjoyable, we're going to want to do it, and we're also going to find it easier to be consistent with that. So find what works for you. We can also see that music, listening to music or a podcast, if you are by yourself, can help to make exercise feel a little bit more fun. And it's important to note also that exercise is just one piece of the puzzle. A very important piece nonetheless, one of my favorite pieces of the puzzle. But nutrition, stress, medications, sleep, lifestyle all also play a very important role in arthritis and in our bodies. So I know firsthand also that when I addressed all those different parts of my life is when I started to feel the biggest difference in my arthritis, which then helped me do more and get back to doing the exercise that I do love doing. And it's also important to seek out a professional, for example, clinical exercise physiologist, for guidance and individualized prescription and support. Now, we at Optimize Health, we have 2 clinics in Auckland. We have a clinic in Mission Bay and also a clinic in Kumu. And so we work one-on-one to find you individualized prescriptions of exercise that match the goals that you have and whatever it is that you would like to achieve. So we work with you. Then, though we have the 2 clinics in Auckland, we do also have some online services available. So if you are interested, you can reach out to me at sasha@optimizehealth.co.nz via email. You can also find me on Instagram at Move with Sash, or our Optimize Health Instagram for clinic at Optimize Health. And you can also visit our website, optimizehealth.co.nz, if you're interested in reaching out for any help, advice, or some services that we do offer there. So guys, I want to say a massive, massive thank you for being here today, for listening to this talk on exercise and arthritis, and also putting time into yourself. Because as I said, I know what it can be like firsthand when you are in pain and when you do feel perhaps alone or feel confused at where to start. So I want to say well done for being here, putting that time into yourself to learn and to better yourself. And hopefully you've found something in this helpful today. And yeah, would love to hear any feedback later on too, if there's more bits that you would like to learn about and that we can help with. So that concludes my part of the seminar, and we'll open it up for some questions now.
Amazing. Thank you, Sasha. That was such a great presentation and so practical as well. And I think we've all learned something today, and it was fantastic. And it was lovely for you to also share your personal experience. So thank you as well for sharing that. So we have got some questions coming through, and I have collated a few of them. So we've got still about 20 minutes or so. So feel free to keep popping your questions through, everybody, and I'll do my best to get through as many as we can. So first question, we've got someone who has both gout and osteoarthritis in their feet. Are there any specific exercises for feet that you would recommend? Is there anything they should be doing differently?
That's a really good question, and great that you are looking for some exercises to do with that. And so what we could look at doing is think about how can I move my foot and just moving it through its full range of motion or through the range of motion that it is able to move through for now. So perhaps that could look like some toe raises. If this is your foot here, maybe looking at lifting your toes a little bit. Could look at doing some heel raises, some calf raises even. Could try to lift your toes up and plant sort of one down at a time like this. Perhaps you could look like scrunching the foot like this and then spreading the foot. So if you think, in what different ways can my foot move and how could I look to sort of move it? If we think about it from, yeah, keeping it mobile and keeping the toes and the ankle joints moving, that could be a good place to start.
That's great. That's really awesome. Thank you, Sasha. We've got a question about exercise and I guess sort of exercising in the pool. They're wondering about temperature, I guess, is it better to be in a warm pool, a cool pool? They've talked about hydrotherapy pools versus lap pools. Do you have any recommendations around that kind of exercise or that water exercise, I guess?
That's a really great question. And again, a great method of exercise going to the pool. I don't know specifically off the top of my head. I'd have to refer to some research if there is any around the temperature of the water specifically. However, the hydrotherapy is a really great way because there's no impact on the joints and it is taking off a lot of that impact. So yeah, I could do some specific ones, but if it feels better to be in a warmer one, or if it feels better to be in a cooler one, you could give them a go and see what feels best for you. But hydrotherapy is a great method and a great way to be active with a lot less impact on the joints.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can always get that information back to our consumers or the person that was looking for that answer. And is that something I guess you would suggest for our consumers? If it feels good, go with it. If it doesn't feel good, maybe don't go with it. Is that something you would sort of live by, I guess, or
Yeah, good question again. And sort of like what I mentioned before, with the pain level. So listening to your body of how do I feel? Do I feel like this is making it worse? Is this causing pain within me? Is this not? Is there a little bit of mild discomfort? Am I okay doing the movement? So really listening to your body and see, does this work for me? And see how you feel the next day, and just monitor it from there.
Awesome. I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask you anyway. Someone has said that they noticed you didn't include recreational dance in your exercise options. Was there a reason for that? Is that something they should be avoiding, not so great for joints, or is that something that they could include?
There was definitely no reason that I didn't add that one. I'm so sorry. I also myself am a dancer. I love dancing. So although that was not on the options, there are many, many different ways that we can exercise. So it's really great that you're into recreational dance. And again, listen to your body. If there's things like a lot of jumping where there's a lot of sort of load and impact, perhaps it's reducing that. If there's a type of jumping, reducing jumping there. If there's ways, just to keep sort of planted on the ground and moving. But again, listen to your body. If it feels okay for you, great. See how you feel the next day or the next 2 days. If you find that you've had a bit of a flare and pain in any particular joint, perhaps it might look like next time you go to dance, maybe doing it for a little bit, maybe sitting down, taking a little rest for a little bit, give the joints a break, and then maybe starting again. So it's about taking it low, slow, and then building up that tolerance over time, listening to your body and seeing how it responds in the next couple of days. But please go for it, recreational dancing, big fan of dance.
Awesome. Next question that we've got here is muscle soreness a short time after exercise normal?
Yes, absolutely. So like I mentioned before, there's that thing called delayed onset muscle soreness. So really great question. And it's really normal to experience some tenderness or some soreness in our muscles anywhere between 24 to 48 hours after doing specifically resistance training, but there might also be some muscle soreness after different types of exercise too. And so if you are experiencing that sort of muscle soreness between that 24 to 48 hours, that's really normal. If the pain, if it's more feels like pain and it's going on further than 48 hours, that's when I'll suggest maybe reaching out to your GP or seeing if you do work with a trainer or an exercise physiologist, having a chat to them and letting them know perhaps what you did in the last session was a little bit too much. And so that would then inform yourself or your trainer to maybe dial it back for the next session. And then you'd work on building it up slowly. So finding that sweet spot of what your body can tolerate with a little bit of mild discomfort, a little bit of muscle soreness perhaps, and then building it up. So there's not too much soreness, but a little bit is okay.
Awesome. Great advice, Sasha. Now, this one's really quite an interesting question. So this person has said that they have recently been diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, and their rheumatologist has suggested to only do light weights. As they are a 51-year-old postmenopausal woman, she knows it's important to build muscle. Do you have any thoughts on this? Would you agree? Maybe disagree?
Yeah, those are some really great, and I'm really glad that the rheumatologist has still suggested to exercise and to not avoid it. We can have a look to see what the most recent evidence does say, but I think that's some really great advice to look at increasing the reps, perhaps at a lower weight, so that we're not stressing or perhaps creating too much inflammation in the body with some higher, with a lot of weight. And so those are just my initial thoughts, but I can have a look in to see what the most up-to-date evidence does say. But I do think along the lines of still exercising with weights, a lower weight and a higher rep range does sound like some really good advice.
Awesome. Another question we've got here, we're getting some really awesome questions, so thank you everybody. This person is scheduled for a hip replacement surgery, and I think it might be a bit of a long wait. Can exercise help towards a quicker recovery?
Absolutely. Really great question, and really great as well that you are thinking about exercise, that it can be a way to help you in this process. So really great thinking along that lines. And so if you are going for hip surgery beforehand, we want to make sure we can get those muscles around the hips and the legs as strong as possible to help support the hip and to help support the recovery afterwards as well. And so, like I said, great that you're already pre-thinking that there might be a little bit of a wait time. So it sounds like exercise perhaps could help to strengthen the muscles around. Again, working in a range that you feel comfortable with, that feels okay for you, but working on really strengthening as much as you can before you go for the surgery can really help them with the recovery to then get into the exercise to build it up again afterwards too.
And I guess that's an area where someone like yourself would be really vital in that pre and post recovery as well. I know, often our surgeons provide a bit of advice around exercise, or they might refer to physios and that type of thing. But is there a role that the clinical exercise physiologists are playing within those surgeries, or is it something that people are kind of self-electing to do, I guess?
That's a really great question and great idea as well. And we definitely play a role in that. We can help to prep you for any upcoming surgery. So we call it like the prehabilitation as well as the rehabilitation after a surgery. So making sure that you're in the best position that you can be going into the surgery, so then that you can be in the best position you can to recover afterwards. And we help with all of that, taking that into account, and working with you and your personal individualized needs.
Awesome. That's great for everyone to know as well. And we will share Sasha's contact information if you are interested in it, and obviously that resource that she talked about earlier. Now we've got a question around, does age make any difference to the amount of exercise recommended? And I guess I might add on to that, does age make any difference to the type of exercise that you might recommend?
That's a really good question. And we still want to be aiming for the 150 minutes, and we can build it up. We can build it up any way that we see fit, that we enjoy, that is getting in, the right intensities and for the right amount. Especially as we get older, we do want to have a think about more naturally, especially women, our bone density, might go down, menopause happens, and our muscle mass does significantly go down more than men and males. And so for everyone, it's really important that we keep good strength in our lower body to help with balance, and that we continue, and if we haven't starting doing balance exercises as well. And so keeping the stability of our body and ability to balance, though of course lower body is important for the balance and keeping strength there. We still want to work our upper body still and have that balanced prescription when we're looking after our whole body. So things might change as we go through different ages, but really important that we do keep an element of each of those different types of exercise, as they are all really beneficial. And of course, cardio exercise too, for keeping our heart healthy and keeping our lungs healthy. So overall, we still want to be getting in enough exercise, but that might look like some more balance. Even doing things like Tai Chi, as evidence shows, is fantastic for keeping up your balance, and also that sort of mind to body connection also.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we've had lots of different questions that kind of looking at specific areas of the body, I guess. So I'm not going to ask you to show us a exercise for each different part of the body. That might be a little bit tricky tonight. But do you have maybe any resources or anything that might be helpful, or other videos that you can share for specific parts of the body that that people have arthritis, like shoulders or maybe knuckles or hips, that kind of thing? Is there anything in particular that you can recommend without having to go through the whole body and show us all the exercises, obviously, today?
We could be here all night if you want, guys. Yeah. We could just do a full body exercise session, a few hours long. No, absolutely. So there are those videos I did make, I think it was a couple of years ago actually, on the hips, exercises for the hips specifically, some mobility ones, some resistance ones, and some balance ones. And what I can do as well is put together a few more resources on particularly hand ones, even just doing things sort of like moving our hands, moving our wrists, making a fist, spreading fingers. So I think what should my hands be able to do? They should be able to close, they should be able to open. So can I practice those movements? Should be able to move my wrists in some circles. So can I do that? Getting the movement in those figure eights as well. So yeah, I could put together a few more resources on things like hands and shoulders for that more sort of mobility-based exercise. Because also, again, I understand that when we are in pain and when there is pain happening, we almost want to move that joint still, but not stress it too much with weight. So mobility, like I mentioned, for me personally too, is a really great option of exercise that we can do when there is a little bit of pain. So yeah, I can put together a few more resources that's helpful.
Fabulous. Thank you, Sasha. That would be wonderful. So we've got another question. Is it okay to exceed the 150 minutes that you were talking about, providing it does not hurt?
Absolutely. Yes, it is definitely okay to exceed it. We do know that the more, the better. There does come a limit. We don't need to do too much all the time.
Yeah.
The guidelines are hopefully we can reach a minimum of 150 minutes of that moderate to vigorous exercise. If it is over as well, fantastic. But again, just like you mentioned, listening to your body, how am I responding? How do I feel? Is this wiping me out for the rest of the day? Am I feeling like I've done too much in the week? Okay, cool. So at the end of the week, can I reflect? How do I feel? Did I feel okay? Did I do a little bit too much one day? Okay, cool. So how can I look at my next week coming up, and how can I plan that? Maybe I need to drop one little thing back. Maybe I could pick this one up a little bit more. So listening to your body and seeing how you're feeling is a great marker too.
And having that flexibility and knowing that you can change things around, but still having that plan in place, that you sort of have a goal or a plan for the week, I think was a great idea, Sasha.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
So we've also got, I've got lots of questions now. How someone's asking about, how would they exercise when they are always in pain? Now, they may obviously be in a stage within their arthritis that they're in quite constant pain, despite taking, pain medication or something like that. what is there something they can do in terms of movement or maybe not exercise, but maybe movement? And where might they be able to start, I guess, when they are in that constant pain?
That's a really, really good question, and I really heavily empathize with that too, because for me also there was a time where I didn't exercise for a while I was figuring out what was going on, and that it actually was arthritis that I did have. So I really, really do understand what that is like. And in my experience and with other clients as well, starting off with that low impact mobility, so just the movement, not loading with any weights. Though again, that gold standard is 150 minutes per week. It's okay if that's not where we start. That can be something that is built up to over time, and something is always better than nothing. So even if, it is just this light mobility movements for now, just trying to get some joints moving. What can also help is, yes, like I mentioned before, exercise is one piece of the puzzle, one of my favorite pieces to look at. But there are many other pieces of the puzzle. What are we eating? What are our stress levels like? What is my sleep like? And mentioned still medication. So looking at our life as a whole, are there any changes I can make anywhere that might help me feel maybe stress? I know at that stage of my life when I was diagnosed, I was pretty stressed with things in life. My nervous system was very, very fight or flight all the time. I didn't feel like I could ever really catch a breath. Things always felt very go, 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 and never really settled. And so over the last sort of five or so years, I've really worked to just learn how to take a breath, honestly, how to breathe, started practicing some mindfulness, some breathing exercises. So those are things that have personally really helped me and other clients as well, especially when perhaps there's a lot of pain with any type of movement, is perhaps I could look at some mindfulness exercises, some breathing, and some really, really gentle mobility to start off.
Yeah, that's really great advice, Sasha. And also just to add to that, I guess, is that we do have lots of different videos on our YouTube channel. We've got Sasha's really beautiful short exercise videos. We've also got a video from Dr. Nikki Tugnett, who is also a yoga teacher. We've got information about medications, all sorts of things. So it is a good place to start as well. And we do also have our Arthritis Assist service, which is our 0800 number where you can chat to people about medication, about mental health, nutrition, all sorts of things. So there are other services out there as well. And we do also obviously have wonderful people like Sasha who provide services in the community as well. So we are now at 8 o'clock, very sadly. We could chat to Sasha all night, I'm sure. So thank you so much, Sasha, for your time tonight. I know we've all had a really wonderful time, and we have all learned lots, and you've given us lots of practical advice and lots of practical tips, which is wonderful. And I'm sure our community will be very appreciative for you tonight. And so thank you to those that all attended tonight. We had lots of people online, and we didn't get through all the questions. I'm sorry. We had so many questions tonight, which is fantastic. This webinar will be available in the coming weeks on our YouTube channel if you want to view it again or send it on to your friends or whānau. And just to finish us off tonight, I will just close us off with a very short karakia, and then we will say goodnight, and you guys can all go off and enjoy the rest of your evening. So tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I roto, tu taua mai I waho, kia tau ai, te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, homie huie, tae kie. So thank you everyone for joining tonight, and thank you, Sasha.
Thank you, everyone.